Now, if you watch the video all the way through, you'll see a lot of bullish divergences are developing in the 4-hour time frame and in the daily time frame. Bitcoin still may move a little bit lower, closer to the trend line or the 100 period on the daily chart that I'll be talking about. You'll see it in the video, but look at pring parameter here in the 4-hour time frame. Again, I talked about the low right here. I talked about back then when horizontal support that if we bounced, it may end up forming a divergence on some indicators, and we're certainly seeing that now develop. You have it on the pring parameter in the 4-hour time frame. Negative divergence on pring parameter that gave us the top. Could the bullish divergence here, and it may not quite be done yet, could that give us the Bitcoin bottom? That's why I think we have an ABC structure for wave 4, which I'll be talking about. Watch the video all the way through. Important stuff happening right now. Bitcoin's about to get the final climax rally of the blow-off top, final phase of the blow-off top here. It's about to move towards 120 to 125,000. Signals are bearish. Intraday signals are bearish, but we're forming bullish divergences. While the weekly signals remain bullish, we're likely going to see a big rally surrounding inauguration day. We move closer to the Fed meeting towards the end of the month, or maybe just past it, towards the next inflation report again. But we could rally on into late January or on into early February. It's a target level I've been talking about, the next level of resistance, should we clear the resistance levels that we've just turned off of right here, which I warned you about before we ever hit them. Trend lines I've been talking about, which you will also see in this video. Watch the video all the way through, and you'll see all the bullish divergences that I'm talking about. Now, if Bitcoin moves a little bit closer to these trend lines or towards the 100 period moving average, I'm watching the 4-hour chart to see if we go a little bit lower. This trend line from these lows, again, we could go a little bit lower towards that trend line that I've been talking about there in the 4-hour or in the daily time frame. Could see a divergence develop right here in this most recent price action. The bounce right here for this possible double bottom pattern right here is giving us possibly another divergence right here. So again, we might go lower, and then the trend line or the 100 period in the daily time frame. Again, right now we do have a possible multiple point divergence. The slightly lower low right here. And again, it might be that we get a divergence in this most recent price action, and that forms a bottom on Bitcoin just a little bit lower, pushing on down through this area just a little bit, moving closer towards 100 period moving average. So I'll be watching the trend lines here and the trend line in the daily time frame, that rising trend line with the linear scaling and the 100 period moving average. Because the head and shoulders plays out, we get a dump down to 74 or 75,000. That's the risk. As I've said, I think that, again, I think you've got this larger ABC structure, and I think that, again, might try to find support somewhere around the 100 or just above the 100 period moving average there on the daily chart. We do get another dump lower, possibly with the inflation data next week. Tuesday before the stock market opens, we'll get inflation. Wednesday before the market opens, we will get the CPI data. Sometimes one day is down, the next day is up when you get the back-to-back reports like that. Maybe we bottom with both of the reports, but then try to rally with the inauguration date coming up. We'll see how it unfolds. Watch the 4-hour chart here. Again, do we get this divergence on the RSI or a larger divergence with the extreme lows over here? We already have another reference point with this low. So far, we're getting volatility off these trend lines I've been talking about. This was the one from 2017, and we turned off this level. Still could go higher and end up forming a divergence in this most recent price action on the RSI if we just have a wave 4, an ABC structure taking place. Got to be able to clear the trend line if we're going to go higher. Our linear scaling, here's our log scaling, and again, we have the reversal off this trend line right here, and I warned you about these trend lines before as we're moving towards them, that we could get a reaction off of them. The one from the 2021 low, and again, if we can clear it, you can go up to this trend line, the upper channel line here, and that would take us towards 120 to 125,000, depending on when we reach that level. But if we could reach it towards the end of January, early February, you're looking at around 120 to 125,000 or so. I think that that's where we're headed. I think we'll end up moving up there again in January and maybe on into early February. But then I think you're going to peak. I think that will complete a blow off top, and then I think you're going to start a reversal. I think that will complete a divergence on the RSI. And again, with this larger divergence from the previous peak in March of 2024, and then I think that will mark a reversal. The risk is that we turn off of this trend line right here, and that we have something like what we had over here with the peak over here, where we didn't get a divergence right here with the peak at 69,000, but you built upon this other one like we built upon this one, and that's all she wrote. My guess is we're going to move up to that upper channel line, and I think that that will complete blow off top and complete the cycle high. Now, Bitcoin has not reached the upper channel line that I've been talking about, and again, that intersects with this boundary, this upper boundary of the channel, of the larger channel. These are the lows back over here from the last bear market, the higher low that's set up in the new bull market, and again, the peak here, the peaks that formed as we had the 2021 peaks. Again, I think that this is going to mark the next peak right here, and I think that we have this final primary wave that's going to complete, again, the blow off top. And again, I think that we have a 5-leg structure higher here on Bitcoin, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I think we're getting this final 5th wave here, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I think we get 5, and we go up into the upper channel right here. And then we go up into this upper channel. And again, they intersect here by late January, early February, into that 120 to 125,000 area. So I think this is wave 4. I think we get wave 5, and then I think we complete a cycle top. And again, I think this whole thing is a 5th wave. I have an alternative count. I don't have time to show you that today, but then I think we get this large reversal, this A, B, C, that eventually takes us back down to this lower channel line again, and that could end up taking us down beyond the 15,000 area here to complete a bear market with Bitcoin. As we're moving towards recession, Bitcoin will begin to top and price that in. So I think we're going to top here very, very soon. I think we're going to get the final blow off top. If you watch the video all the way through, I suggest you do. We're forming bullish divergences. We can go a little bit lower, but we are forming bullish divergences. We did dip a little bit lower than the previous low, $100. We may go a little bit lower, but I think we're going to end up getting a push higher. I do believe that this is a wave 4 that we're forming right now, and that's why I don't think we're probably going to be a big, huge sell-off. I think we probably could go a little bit lower, but I think that that'll complete an ABC structure to take us back up here, and then I think we'll get the final blow off top here at about 120 to 125,000. I think that will complete a cycle top for Bitcoin. Nobody thinks that's possible. We go up here again. People are going to get extremely bullish. We're going to probably peak right there and begin to turn and drop sharply. And over the next couple months, we'll see about a 50%, very quick 50% drop on Bitcoin, just like we did back at the 2021 top. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, information, please consider partnering with me. I don't have any sponsors because I don't want to send you to a bunch of exchanges that want to get you leveraged up and wipe you out. You to gold sites that want to charge you triple commissions. A lot of shady deals on the internet. I ask that you support the channel, but I need to have you partner with me in order to make that work. So if you could take a moment to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. I just ask that you do what you can to help out rather than trying to sell you stuff with sponsors. I just ask that you just support the channel. New to the channel, my name is Ron, and we do technical analysis here on Bitcoin. If you're new, I want to welcome you. Watch the video all the way through because you're going to see some amazing indicators. Signals that are suggesting that Bitcoin is about to bottom again, or probably move a little bit lower. The video all the way through. Now again, Bitcoin did move slightly lower. We moved about $100, exactly actually $100 below this level, 91,215, and this was 91,315. We moved slightly lower, so again, we're likely still in wave 4. I think we're going to get a wave 5 push up towards 120 to 125,000 or so, depending on when we come in contact with the trend line. But as what I'm watching is, do we get a bigger push down towards our 100 period moving average down here, or the trend line I have a couple of different trend lines with the linear and the log scaling that I've been watching. But again, could this be a larger A, B, and then C? And maybe it's done, sooner rather than later, or maybe we get a little bit bigger sell-off, moving closer to the 100, near the 86,000 area in the trend line that you'll see shortly. The different trend lines on the linear and log scaling. Told you over here, again, signals had formed a bullish divergence here, and on the intraday charts that gave us the bounce up, and I told you to be watching, see if we set up a lower high or if we just got a pullback and then resumed the advance or started a reversal. Well, we started a reversal and it ended up taking us to lower levels, lower than this. So again, this corrective move is likely not done yet. Risk is that we have this head and shoulders pattern and that it gives us a bigger dump on Bitcoin to about 75,000. The pattern measures into the 74,000 range. Doesn't mean we have to go there. If it is just corrective, it could be that we, again, start to break down. It's a fake out, and we end up turning back up. So again, in my opinion, we are still in wave 4. I think wave 5 will complete the blow off top, as I've been talking about. Now, again, another thing, we did get the 10 period back above the 20, the blue line there. The 10 is a red, but they're both still below the 50, the green line. So that has to change if we're going to try to rebound. And then I'm watching this trend line right here from these lows. And again, it's pointing down towards the rising trend line with our linear scaling. Now, if I just zoom out here on the linear scaling, you can see it. Again, if we take the trend line here from this low and this low, again, with our linear scaling pointing upward, it's just a little bit lower. And the low here and the low here at 91,315, it's pointing down to that area. Now, again, take Bitcoin to the 86, 87,000 area, breaking 91,000. If we do go a little bit lower, if the head and shoulders plays out, measures down to 74,000, which is this horizontal line right here, that takes us back. That takes us all the way back to the March high at 73,700. So again, this pattern measures to 74,000, just above that area. If we end up seeing the pattern play out and Bitcoin gets a bigger dump, then again, some of the other trend lines we've been talking about then come into play. And again, we'd be taking out the 100 period moving average and moving towards the 200 if that was the case, which is moving towards horizontal support. So the risk is we get a bigger dump and that the head and shoulders pattern plays out. If we form a larger diversion, so we do have one, we just went a little bit lower, and it might be just a little miniature double bottom if the slope can hold. But if we do go a little bit lower, I'll be watching this 86, 87,000 area or so. And these trend lines down here, should horizontal support break here, which we're still trying to bounce off of it at this point. And maybe it holds. We'll see what happens. But signals turned right back to bearish after turning bullish. In this area that we're at right here, this is all the area where VWAP support is as well. We're at one level of VWAP support, horizontal support. Directly below, there's just a little bit more with this area in here. And let me just show you that. But before I do, again, Bitcoin dropped 15.70% right here, rebounded back up about 12.5%. And then from this high down to this low right here, we dropped a little bit more, just slightly under this level, 15.64%, or I'm sorry, 84%, dropping just a little bit more, again, about $100 lower. Actually, I think it's a little lower. My line moved on me here. Hang on, 15.90%, so almost 16%. Now, again, with this trend line and this area of horizontal support, and again, there's more support just a little bit lower. Let's look at the VWAP support in this area. Should we move a little bit lower or bounce off the horizontal line that we're at right now? At the moment on Saturday, Bitcoin's down 0.5%. On Friday, we were up 2.33% after dropping sharply, giving back all the gains of the 12.5% rally and then moving slightly lower. So right now we're down 0.5% on Saturday, rebound on Friday. And now let's look at that VWAP support and look at this area right in here Now the VWAP support is volume weighted average price, and we have the horizontal support here as well. Right now we're trying to bounce off of the VWAP here from this high after we broke out of this declining trend line right here. That's the high right there. And then when we back tested it, this back test move that moved slightly below the trend line, those are the VWAP support levels right here. The red line is the peak right here with the breakout, and then the back test is the line right here that we're just slightly above right now. So that's VWAP support. If we lose this level of support, there's just a little bit more down right here, but you can see if this level, this range, holds as support right in here somewhere. We're still in that support area to give us a rebound. If we break this level, there's not much of a way of support here. And again, there's risk that we go back down, and the head and shoulders pattern measures to the peak here in March, just above it at the 74,000 area. And that peak was 73,700, 73,000, I don't get it straight here, 73,700 right there. So that's the risk that we get a bigger dump. Again, I think we're in wave 4, and I think that we maybe possibly go a little bit lower, but then try to resume. And again, this horizontal support, again, could take us closer to that trend line, closer to the trend line I've been talking about on the other chart there with our linear scaling near our 100 period moving average. VWAP support so far holding, can still go a little bit lower, and our horizontal support here can still hold, and there's another VWAP right here going back to this higher low that's set up right there. Risk is we break this area. If we do, then the risk is we have a top at the trend lines of resistance in the weekly time frame that I've been talking about. Just another trend line I'm watching, this channel right here. I don't know if we go down and hit the lower boundary. If you do, we get a bigger dump, and that would take us towards a 100 period, which if I just bring up the 100 period, that's a pink line right here. If we go down towards that 100 period and overthrow it, then you got this trend line coming into play here. If we end up getting a bigger sell-off. This is a trend line of interest to me right here from the highs there in July of 2024. We have that trend line with our high here at 108,000, and I've just connected these lows right here. It's not perfect as far as the trend line down there, but I'm just connecting it here. And again, just a channel that I am watching should we get a bigger dump. Now here's our linear scaling. Let me just zoom out here. Here's our linear scaling. Here's the trend line again, the black bold trend line right here, directly above our 100 period moving average. If we go a little bit lower, 86, 87,000 or so. If we exclude the shadow right there, right here, that dotted line is just a little bit higher. So again, that could be in play as well. Linear scaling, here's some of the trend lines going back to here, below our 100 period, and then going all the way back to the August low at 49,000. Back just above our 400 period moving average. So just some levels that I'm watching should we end up getting a bigger dump. Again, as long as Bitcoin's above the 100 period moving average, that's positive. If you start losing the 100 period moving average, that's when bad things start happening on Bitcoin. Bitcoin follows the 100 period moving average in the daily. It follows the 20 week in the weekly time frame. So you got this head and shoulders. We've got momentum rolling over here. We'll be watching to see, do we get a bigger dump? If we do divergences allow for a short-term bottom, or do we get a much bigger sell-off and try to end up taking out the 100 period moving average? Should we get a bigger sell-off? Again, does the 74,000 target area, 75,000 target area for the head and shoulders, does that come into play or not? In order to resume the advance, my signals have to turn back to bullish. Again, these divergences gave us this sell-off right here of 15.70%. The rebound gave us a lower high. So again, we've got to see let's turn back to bullish and get back above the 50 period moving average. That's the green line right here. And then be able to get the 10 and 20 back above the 50 if we're going to resume the advance. Now, near the 100 period moving average, with our log scaling, is the lower boundary of the trending cloud as well. So something to be paying attention to. If we do get a bigger sell-off, again, the 100 period moving average, again, in this 86,000 area, and our cloud just right above it there. The daily time frame for Bitcoin. Now, we already are hitting the trend line here from the lows right here and here. With our logs going, the linear scaling, it's a little bit lower, closer to the 100 period. Now, this trend line right here, going back, is right at the 100 period, and that goes all the way back to the low here in September, and then excluding the shadow here, and that's right at our 100 period, a little bit lower if we include the shadow. So again, just some trend lines that I'm paying attention to and watching if we end up getting a bigger sell-off. I'm looking at both the trend lines with the log and the linear scaling. They're a little bit different. Some people use one. The other, I use both because I look at the trend lines. A good majority of people in crypto only look at the linear scaling, though. A lot of them don't look at the log scaling at all. Can bounce at horizontal support, then this trend line being tested right here gives us a tiny little divergence, moving $100 lower than the previous low, and again, possible little divergence on the RSI. We'll see what happens with this level. Linear trend line a little bit lower, 86, 87,000, or 100 period around 86,000. I told you about the sell-off before it happened with these divergences formed as we went up and slammed up into the trend lines in the weekly time frame. You had it on the MACD, but look at the MACD, and again, the price oscillator, the MACD, momentum, they're all doing the same thing. They're forming this possible divergence, and the S&P 500 is doing the exact same thing, and they have formed the exact same pattern. It's pretty amazing. Go watch my my latest videos on the S&P. The last two videos I talk about again the head and shoulders and the support, but it's pretty amazing. I think that you're going to form a divergence here, or you have formed it, and I think it's just going to maybe get a little bit better defined, and then I think we're going to see the MACD, and I think we're going to see the price oscillator begin to recycle back up. So again, I'm of the opinion this is a corrective wave 4, and maybe it's not done yet. Again, it's not a wave 2 right here because we moved lower, so this wave 4 is still under construction, but then I think we're going to resume the advance. So again, we might break the log scaling trend lines only to go back and hit the linear scaling trend line. And again, here it is, just a little bit lower, and then again possibly bounce there and complete the divergence on the MACD, maybe here with momentum, and on the 4-hour chart. Back to our log scaling, the RSI remains below 50. You got to get back above 50. You got to get back above the 50 period moving average, back above the 20 if we're going to get a 20-50 bullish signal here in the daily time frame. Getting back above the 20, getting back above the 50 level on the RSI, that would be bullish. The price oscillator is doing the same thing as the MACD. Again, possibly a divergence is forming here. And again, maybe we go a little bit lower. We did inch a little bit lower than this level. Maybe we go a little bit closer to the 100 period and towards the trend lines I've been talking about. But again, I think you got an ABC structure here. And I think when it finishes, I think Bitcoin's going to go up towards 120,000 to as high as 125,000. If we can reach the trend line there, in late January, maybe early February there, but I'll be watching. Does the MACD and does the price oscillator complete a divergence here? Do they go deeper into negative territory, not form a divergence by taking out these previous lows right here? So again, if we form the divergence, I think that will mark a Bitcoin bottom probably next week. Or if this low can hold, maybe this week here, if this low can hold at key horizontal support. And Bitcoin's got to be able to clear this 99,600 area or so. Now, again, we're turning red here. We're going from blue to red, so the risk is we get a bigger dump. But if you can get back above that, then you're just going sideways with this head and shoulders. And if it doesn't play out, we go back and we take out this high up here. It would cancel out the pattern if it doesn't play out towards 74 or 75,000. So we'll be watching these possible divergences on the MACD and the price oscillator. But it's forming on a lot of my oscillators, and again, take a look right here, we have potentially this divergence. We went up in positive territory, but we're turning down right now. Price went slightly lower, but again, it may not be done yet. Again, we may move closer to that 100 period and complete the ABC structure at a little bit lower levels and then resume the advance. So again, watching my signals closely because a divergence could form on some of these oscillators. Here we tried to flip the signal, the cloud back to bullish, got it back above the 20, and it failed, but it's now forming this divergence. Could we just be getting another push down in an ABC structure for a wave 4? Going back to this chart right here, if I failed to mention it a moment ago, I just want to make sure I did. This trend line could be pointing to the next high, again 120 to 125,000, depending on when we come in contact with it. If we move closer to the 100 and then we go up and hit this level in late January or on into early February, again you're looking at that 120, 125,000 area with this potential channel. Now a bigger sell-off would take us towards this lower boundary and give us more closer of a 24-25% drop if we get a bigger dump, and then again the risk is the head and shoulders gives us an even bigger dump towards 74 or 75,000 towards our 200 period moving average. But this is a trend line of interest to me, connecting from that July peak. So again, want to make it clear that again that could be the area where we try to peak at is when we reach this upper channel line here, our most recent channel here from the summer of 2024. And just quickly, we tried to get signals back to bullish here, and it failed. We had to push back into the positive region of the cloud. It failed, and then we came back and moved slightly lower than this level here, and tried to get back in positive territory and move right back quickly into negative territory. But again, look at what we're doing, forming a bullish divergence. So again, move slightly lower. The momentum did not. So again, on my oscillators, we're setting up these bullish divergences. Very similar to like over here, we had a little bullish divergence, mark that bottom. Over here, again, in the sideways consolidation, we had another bullish divergence that marked that bottom. Again, a lot of these indicators are setting up bullish divergences. And again, maybe we go a little bit lower, but a good chance, I think, you complete an ABC structure and then go higher, even if we do go a little bit lower or closer to that 100 period moving average or the trend line that I've been talking about. We get that with the inflation data. Maybe the PPI that we get on Tuesday, we get that and it comes in hotter like it did last time, but then we rally with the CPI, or we sell off with both reports, but then rally as we go into Inauguration Day. And again, we had the Trump pump crowning the election here in November, and maybe we resume that. That took us to the December high. Maybe we resume that and get another push higher to get the final blow off top for Bitcoin. Again, I think that's very, very possible because we have sold off since December going into Inauguration Day rather than rallying up. And I talked about Inauguration Day possibly being a sell the news event. Had we gotten a rally going into it, well, we got the sell off going into it, so it could be a catalyst that gives us the pump for the final move to about 120 to 125,000. So again, I think these divergences have a pretty good shot of playing out, and maybe they're not done yet. Maybe they are, but maybe they're not done yet, and we go just a little bit lower towards closer to that trend line and the 100 period, that trend line in the daily time frame with the linear scaling that I've been talking about. My oscillators, just going back to this chart here with the head and shoulders that I showed you, again, got a possible divergence that could be under construction right here. Again, the negative divergence here gave us the sell-off of nearly 16%. We got a lower high here. Do we form a divergence and then turn back up, or again, get closer to that 100 period moving average? We'll be watching the trend line and the 100 period moving average with great interest next week should the selling continue. If those levels break, there's risk of a bigger decline, but my oscillators look like they're trying to form bullish divergences all over the place, as I've been talking about. Talked about that before we ever had the rally over here. When we had the low over here, I said we might end up seeing a bullish divergence form on oscillators. Like right here with momentum, I've been talking about this. Again, we had to go into positive territory in order to, have the bullish signal play out. We saw momentum signals turn back to bearish. We tried to flip the cloud. It turned right back to a sell signal. Again, likely a divergence developing. Again, we can move closer to the 100 period, but again, momentum also likely going to form a bullish divergence. Now, maybe that takes us a little bit lower, But again, does that prevent a massive sell-off down to 74 or 75,000 with the head and shoulders pattern? We got these bullish signals right here that only gave us a bounce, at least so far. Could be setting up for a bigger move higher if these divergences complete, which again, we did move lower, so maybe they're done, maybe they're not. But I think you got a good shot that bullish divergences are setting up ahead of Inauguration Day, and we could continue the Trump pump as we did back over in November with resuming the election rally like we got over here. So we'll be watching to see what becomes of these bullish divergences. The impulse line tried to turn back to bullish, and it flipped right back to bearish. Again, we got to flip these signals, the cloud, the ribbon, and so forth, all back to bullish if we're going to try to resume the advance. So again, we'll be watching. With the rally here, again, the momentum line, it turned bullish, and then it flipped right back to bearish after those bullish signals. But again, now we're seeing balance of power go back to negative. So again, there might be more volatility to complete the ABC structure. But I think, again, we'll likely resume the advance and go towards 120,000. I think that we have a wave 4 going on here. So I don't know that we reached the target for the head and shoulders of 74, 75,000. And again, divergences are forming. Again, we move slightly lower. We still may go a little bit lower. But again, you've got potential divergences forming here. Tried to flip back to bullish. We got the lower high and turned right back down, getting rejection right here. So again, if we can see a bullish divergence develop on indicators, maybe it completes the ABC move, but we possibly could move closer to the 100 period. But you start losing the 100 period, you're going to get a bigger dump. So we'll be watching. Same thing here. We had the bullish divergence give us the bounce. We got rejection. Again, we're taking out Bitcoin's average price here, but you are forming a multiple point divergence now that, again, may not be done. So we'll be watching. Signals tried to turn bullish. They reverted right back to bearish. And now we have potential divergences developing on indicators. It could create a dip, giving us the final dip before the final climax move of the blow-off top for Bitcoin. Probably our next level of resistance around 120 to 125,000. Right here, we took out the cloud right here, tried to get back above it. It failed when we turned right back down. Ribbon tried to turn back up, but it failed also. So again, did we get a divergence? In order to resume the advance, we got to get back above this area. Those bullish divergences play out. And again, we could have something like this, but only on maybe a smaller scale here. Again, we had the bottom at 49,000, went up, tried to get above it, failed, went back down, got a higher low. Here, though, we could get a lower low, and then we made the attempt to get back above it, and it was successful. So do we get something like that? This is saying, hey, there's still more risk of downside. The risk is we get a bigger sell-off to 74,000 here. The lower risk is we just move closer to that 100 period moving average, and maybe the trend line in with the linear scaling. Keep in mind, if we do get a bigger sell-off but don't see the head and shoulders target level play out, we don't go all the way back to 74,000. Here, the 73,700 peak right here, just above that area. But if we find support just a little bit lower, you've got the lower end of the rainbow cloud. Now again, sometimes we overthrow the rainbow cloud, but it still acts as support. Other times, again, you kind of hover right at it and move to it, and again, find support around it or just underneath it. Could be that if we move towards the 100 period, we move down towards the lower end of the rainbow cloud, but then try to bottom. So we'll be watching that. Continue to point out that the weekly signals are bullish, and we continue to have the balance of power in positive territory. So again, in order for a reversal, we got to see the weekly signals turn back to bearish. Bulls are in control in the weekly time frame. We have the weekly signals remaining bullish. While we've seen the daily signals revert back to bearish and momentum back to bearish in the daily time frame, the bulls are still in control in the weekly time frame. It could just be a pullback. I'll be watching the lower end of the rainbow cloud here if we do get a bigger pullback towards the 100 period in the daily time frame.